And welcome back to the Overdog Podcast. My name is Craig Lawson. We have a merger, Dawgs Central and the Players Lounge, which is a media group that features some former Bulldogs, Aaron Murray and Keith Marshall. I'm not exactly sure what the makeup of what the org chart looks like, because these days everyone has their hands. They got a podcast over here, so I don't know exactly what is the Players Lounge and what is something they're doing separate. But it's funny because I was watching Aaron Murray's podcast with T-Bob Abear that he does, that I like to get in the comment section and cut up sometimes. I was actually watching a replay earlier today, and then I saw Graham Coffey's tweet about the merger between the Players Lounge and Dawgs Central. So congratulations to Graham. I've been bugging Graham all week about this article I wrote about potential transfer entrants from Georgia. I was just speculating, but that's not something that that could maybe step on some toes. So I haven't been able to access the article, and I want to see if I'm right. And so I guess Graham's been working on this deal, because that's why he hadn't gotten me my article back yet. And it's not that long of an article, but part of the reason I do this podcast is I can write, but it takes me a long time. It takes me a long time to read stuff. It takes me a long time to write stuff. So that's a big effort for me. If probably Graham looks at that and is like, I probably did this in 10 minutes. It took longer than that. So that's why I'm trying to get it. But congratulations to Graham and John, and I guess to me. I don't know. We'll see how that works. So we'll see how that integrates going forward. But that's exciting. This may be our last episode. Oh, actually, it won't be our last episode because they can't stop me from uploading my stuff to YouTube, but might not be on Dawgs Central anymore. I don't know. We'll find out. But we do have an SEC championship game coming up, Alabama and Georgia. There's a lot of injuries. Sorey is banged up. He's super athletic. According to Kirby today, Brock and Ladd and Rah-Rah and Tate Ratledge may not be available. They're questionable. Apparently, they haven't been doing a lot this week. Is this gamesmanship? It feels like it probably is. Kirby was getting miffed at the idea that that all these guys would have played against Georgia Tech, but they didn't because it was Georgia Tech, and we expect to win that game pretty easily, which we kind of did, but we'll get to that in a minute. But these guys, I feel like if Brock Bowers was at risk of having a major setback that would keep him out of the SEC championship game, he probably doesn't play against Ole Miss or Tennessee. They're probably holding him out the whole time because you wouldn't want to risk your best player. And the same goes for Ladd McConkey. I know he had a lower ankle sprain and tried to play a little bit in Knoxville and it didn't work out. Hopefully those guys are back, because that would be a huge blow to, especially with the rapport that Ladd and Brock have with Carson Beck. It would be a huge blow to not have those guys. Like I said, Sorey's banged up. They're probably going to lean on him a lot, because with Jamon Dumas-Johnson, he broke his forearm. And I was wondering if he might try to get back for this game. Thomas Davis broke his forearm. The former Georgia safety turned NFL linebacker before the 2015, maybe 16 Super Bowl. He broke his arm in the NFC Championship game and was playing in the Super Bowl like 2 weeks later after they put a rod in it. It doesn't look like Jamon is that far ahead of the curve. And then Julian Humphrey, he tweeted something out earlier this week that made it seem like he might be playing, but they're saying that he's doubtful with a upper body injury, maybe a collarbone, not exactly sure. That's a blow because he was playing really well. Alabama has their own injuries. I don't have Alabama's injury report pulled up, but Deontay Lawson, we share a last name, no relation, but he has been banged up. He's probably Alabama's best linebacker. We might see a lot of former Georgia linebacker Tresman Marshall if he can't go 100%. Jace McClellan has not been practicing, Alabama's number one running back. Is that gamesmanship? He was on crutches at the Iron Bowl on the sideline, so it's looking like he may not be able to play, or if he is available, not sure exactly what he'll be able to do. Alabama has a lot of running back talent, though. I'm not sure if that's as big of a deal as it might be for other teams. Georgia and Alabama, we have a lot of depth on our rosters. But is it PTSD? A part of me thinks if Alabama is wearing Tennessee's uniforms, that I'm not that worried about this game. But a lot of fans have PTSD. That's post-traumatic Saban disorder, where we see Nick Saban across the sideline and we start to just doubt that Georgia can beat this team. They have lost to them more often than not. And the only time they did beat them was the last time they played in 2021. It was a highly contested game. Ended up with the late Keely Ringo pick six, 33-18, made it look like it was a little bit more of a blowout than it actually was. I wouldn't call it a blowout, but the game was closer than the final score showed at the end. But I find myself wondering, does Kirby Smart have PTSD? Do the players on this roster have PTSD? Of course the fans do, but we've been here for a long time. A lot of the guys playing for Georgia were on the team in 2021, so they're 1-1 at worst against Alabama. A couple guys were on the team in 2020, so they would be 2-1 from the COVID season. That we can take that seriously or not. I generally don't take it that seriously. But I don't know that our guys look across the field and see that crimson and white, and I don't think their heart sinks like some of the fans do. If I'm Kirby Smart, all coaches have egos, and I don't know if I know he doesn't say this publicly. He might not even say it privately, maybe to the people that are closest to him, but if I'm Kirby Smart and I have an ego, I've coached a little bit in my time, and I have a bit of an ego. But if I'm Kirby Smart coming off of back-to-back championships, and I'm looking across the sideline at Alabama and saying, they won 4 championships when I was there. They've only won 2 since then. One was against me in year 2 with the help of some Big Ten officiating, and the other was during the COVID season. They ain't as good as they were when I was there. So I don't think that Kirby Smart has PTSD. Now, that doesn't mean that Georgia couldn't lose this game. Jalen Milroe is a dynamic player. He throws a great deep ball, and he's basically an all-SEC caliber running back when he takes off. And he will run you over. He will harm you. That is not someone that it's going to be easy for your average cornerback to bring down. So that's not to cast any doubt on Alabama's ability to win this game. And they certainly, I don't think they're looking across the sideline at Georgia and thinking to themselves, we can't play with these guys. Some might, but generally speaking, I don't know if the back-to-back championships, maybe it does cast a little bit of doubt. I don't know. Most of the guys on that roster have either gone 1-1 against Georgia or they've never played Georgia, but they have seen the back-to-back championships. So we'll see how that factors in on Saturday. Georgia, we haven't done a show in a few weeks. I can't remember, it's all running together, but I had one week where my mic cut out because it wasn't charged. That's on me. I had another week where I showed up to record and I had a blue shirt on, and behind me is a blue screen. You can't wear a blue shirt in front of a blue screen because it'll cover up your whole torso, which I guess you could still put out, but that would look weird. And then last week was the holiday, so we haven't done a lot of recordings in November. A lot has gone on. Georgia has beaten Missouri. They have donkey stomped Ole Miss. And the Georgia Tech game was not the best showing. We did what we had to do to win the game and got out of there. Buster Faulkner had a very effective game plan against Georgia's defense. And it's a little bit concerning. Haynes King, I didn't really know much about Haynes King. I don't watch Tech football. I didn't realize that Haynes King was like a track star type of quarterback. But Buster Faulkner had those guys doing a lot of good things. The officials were bad. There were bad calls. Georgia had 2 touchdowns called back. I thought there was a holding call against Tech that was a little bit questionable. If you're going to call those ticky-tack holds, you're kind of picking and choosing when you're going to call them, or the illegal linemen downfield. You could call those on every play, and so it's weird to me when officials decide to pick and choose. I'm not saying that the ACC officials were cheating. I'm just saying that they did a poor job all around, and it cost Georgia 2 touchdowns, which I didn't think either of those were good calls. But Georgia still wins the game by 8 points. There was never a point in time where I felt like Georgia was going to lose this game. I had just watched Alabama win a game on 4th and 30. What an incredible play by Alabama. Terrible defense by Auburn. Auburn also fumbled a punt to even allow Alabama to have the ball. All you got to do is catch a fair catch the punt and then complete the catch, which the young man, I won't say his name because I actually don't know it off the top of my head. He's got to be sick. I feel bad for him, but you got to catch that punt. Alabama needed help at the end of the game from Auburn to even have a shot to win it. Georgia kind of cruised, even though it was sort of a mediocre effort, both offensively and defensively. Offensively, you're without Ladd McConkey, you're without Ra Thomas, Tate Ratledge didn't play, and Brock Bowers didn't play. Kirby Smart says if they could have played, they would have. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not calling the guy a liar. Is there some gamesmanship going on? I don't know. But I am hoping that they are able to play, even if they're not 100%. I'm just surprised that we're still questioning, Tate Ratledge with a bone bruise. Ra Thomas, we don't know the extent of his injury. We've already seen Brock play 2 games, so unless he just had some kind of major setback, I think he did get his ankle hit at Tennessee. So that fat idiot, the guy on TikTok or Twitter or whatever from Tennessee, I guess he was right. I guess they were going for Brock's ankles. I'm not saying it was on purpose, even though Brock did get spit on in that game. And then Ladd rolled his ankle against Ole Miss, and it's a low ankle sprain. I don't know. We'll just see. I hope those guys are playing. Maybe it's gamesmanship on Kirby's part. I hope if they are able to play that it is that they're able to contribute, that they're able to play at a high level. Because if not, it's going to be tough to win this game. Even though I do think Georgia is the better team, I think they have the better offense, and I think they actually have the better defense, especially if you're talking about who's healthy. C.J. Allen's going to have a big impact. Basically, C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson, who are both going to play a lot, both true freshman and inside linebacker, they're going to have to not screw up. Hopefully, we don't just allow Jermaine Burton. I don't know what Auburn's doing. Did Jermaine Burton go to Auburn's corner and safety and say, hey, I'm going to run a short route. I'm not going to run down the sideline? And then they believed him, and then he just ran down the sideline anyway and said, oh, that guy lied to us. I don't know what could have possibly happened on that play. I know there's miscommunications, but don't let the other team's number 1 receiver just run free down the sideline. Georgia did it against Georgia Tech. We're in 2 high safety. Georgia Tech receiver just goes down the field right by the corner, and the safety doesn't get over in time. That's not a genius play call. That's just a normal, hey, I'm going deep. That shouldn't surprise anyone. I don't understand how that happens. If I'm playing safety, you're going to catch the ball underneath and juke me out all day. I can turn and sprint to the end zone and keep you from catching a deep ball over my head. That seems to be one of the easier things to do in football. Now, if you go up and get it over me, there's nothing I can do about that. But I can keep you. If you give me a 20-yard, a 10-yard head start, I can turn and sprint and probably keep, especially if I'm a Division I SEC athlete, if I'm Malachi Starks or Javon Bullard, I can beat you to the goal line. I can beat you downfield. Even if you are Jermaine Burton, number 1 receiver for Alabama, a former Georgia Bulldog, and a national champion with the Georgia Bulldogs, not the Alabama Crimson Tide. I do think that this is probably the national championship game being played in Atlanta. I think whoever wins this game will go on to win the national championship. If Georgia wins, they will be well on their way to the unthinkable three-peat. And I look at 2023 like I look at 2022. I didn't think Georgia was going to win the national championship in 2022. I didn't think they were going to go 12-0 necessarily in 2022, but I look at the schedule and I'm like, who's going to beat them? Tennessee emerged, as a potential threat, and then that didn't last very long once they actually kicked the ball off. Same thing this year. I'm looking at the schedule. Who's the best team Georgia's played? It's Missouri, weirdly enough. Would not have thought that. In my mind, Missouri is kind of down here with Vanderbilt. But they had a great year. They gave Georgia a push, and Georgia did what they had to do and put them away. But it was worrisome. It was a struggle. And the thing is, though, I think Alabama's a lot better than Missouri. So I'm just really interested to see, especially if we're missing some players, what is the offense going to look like? What is Mike Bobo's game plan? People get on me for not crowning Mike Bobo an offensive genius. It's not that I think he's incompetent. It's not that I don't think he's good, because I think he has done a good job this year. I just don't care about how many points per game you're averaging, because you can average a lot of points per game and still have some bad games. The offense has looked really good 4 games this year. That is Kentucky, that's Florida, that is Ole Miss and Tennessee. I think that's in order. Those are the only 4 games, in my opinion, that Georgia's offense has looked like it was clicking on all cylinders and looked really good. Now, Graham has his long con theory that we're holding stuff back. I do think that is valid. I know that that's what they're doing to a certain extent. But, we aren't trying to be down at halftime to Auburn and South Carolina. I don't believe that. I don't think Graham does either. So there's some give and take there. A lot of times I can look at the play. I'm an idiot. I'm not an X's and O's football guy really at all. I can look at the formation, and I can tell you what Georgia is about to do. That doesn't matter. What matters is, can you stop it? And a lot of times defenses can't. In my section in Jacksonville, I was screaming, "Are y'all ready for this run up the middle?" And then it would be a run up the middle. And one time, the running back runs out of the formation and Carson Beck is alone in the backfield. And I said, "Don't worry, Carson Beck's just going to run it up the middle." I was joking. He did it. Everyone in my section thought I was a genius, but you get my point. Florida wasn't stopping it. I don't care if I know what's coming. But my question is, with Alabama being our best, Florida went 5-7. They're not even going to a bowl game this year. They're one of the worst teams we played. So with Alabama being in Atlanta, also I don't care that the game is being played in Atlanta. The geography of where that stadium is located, I don't care that Alabama is 3-0 or whatever against Georgia in Atlanta. I don't care that Nick Saban is 10-1 in SEC championship games. That doesn't matter. There's no difference between the SEC championship and the national championship that was played in Indianapolis. So it's like one of those ESPN stats where this pitcher has never lost on a Tuesday when it's cloudy outside. It's a neat stat that you pulled up, but it really doesn't mean anything. So the geographical location of the building will have no bearing on the outcome of the game Saturday. It is going to be a matter of, can the offensive line protect? Alabama has a good pass rush, and Dallas Turner is going to have his ears pinned back against Ernest Green, a redshirt freshman, against Amarius Mims, who was a junior. He hasn't played a lot. He played last year starter snaps, but he's been out some this year. He's rotating in last year with McClendon and Broderick Jones. So this is his first year as a full-time starter. And he's missed some time with an ankle injury. He got hurt against South Carolina. So Alabama's going to have their ears pinned back, especially if we get – now, Georgia's really good at not getting in third down and long situations. Alabama gets in them a good bit, but they convert them. And we gave a lot – we were giving up a lot of it felt like the third and long was not a give me at Georgia Tech when Georgia was on defense. We didn't stop them as well as I would have hoped. I don't have the numbers up in front. Actually, maybe I do have the numbers up in front of me. Can we go to team stats real quick? And then can we go to third down? And I'm talking my way through it. And it looks like Tech was 2 for 3 on third down. So that's 67% if you round up. But it's not – actually, that's a lie. They were 2 for 3 on fourth down. And that was also frustrating. They were only 2 for 11 on third down. But it's felt like at times this year it has been difficult for Georgia. You get a team in third and long. It happened early in the game against Ole Miss, and they will just manage to convert it. It seems like if you're the defense, if you play the type of defense that you're used to seeing at Georgia, when you get a team to 3rd and 8 or more, you feel like you're going to be able to get a stop and have them punting or making a tough decision on 4th down, even if they gain some yards. You don't expect them to convert that. So that has happened some against Georgia. It's not really happening at a high clip, but it concerns you when you're playing an athlete at quarterback like Jalen Milroe. Now, I do want to address something that Rick Neuheisel said. Rick Neuheisel, the former coach of UCLA, I believe. He said that he thinks Bama is going to win because Georgia has not played a dual-threat quarterback since they faced Auburn. So I posted his quote, and then below it, I put Jalen Milroe's rushing numbers, which are 439 yards, 12 touchdowns. Very good. He's done it, especially in the last month. Excellent job running the ball. He's a tough runner. And then up underneath that, I put Haynes King's rushing numbers. Haynes King is, of course, Tech's quarterback. He's rushed for 648 yards and 9 touchdowns. So 3 less touchdowns, but almost 200 more yards. Actually, more than 200 additional yards rushing. King has over Milroe so far this year. So it's not true that Georgia hasn't faced a rushing quarterback. Also, Brady Cook at Missouri had over 500 yards rushing last season, and he hurt the Bulldogs a little bit with his legs. Jackson Dart is also a good runner. So this will not, now, they're not the kind of runners that Jalen Milroe is. They are not the kind of runners that Jaden Daniels is, who Georgia hasn't faced this year. They did face him last year, and he didn't do much, but he also was on a bum ankle. So we'll give him a pass for that, but I don't really know, how does Haynes King prepare. I think Haynes King's probably quicker than Jalen Milroe. He's not as powerful, but like I said, I didn't realize Haynes King was a track star until this past Saturday when he's given Georgia problems running the ball. So I'm pumped for the game. I'm not going to this game. I've been to most games. I went up to Knoxville, didn't go in, which was fine because I was at the tailgate with unlimited food, unlimited adult beverages, and I had a great time. It's been a lot of fun following this team this year. I've been to Atlanta enough. I almost got a ticket because I was like, they've actually never lost when I've been to Atlanta, because I was at Oregon last year. They won that game. I was in the Peach Bowl last year against Ohio State. They won that game. I didn't go to the 2021 SEC Championship, so you can't blame me for that. But then, even going back to 2002 SEC Championship, I was there. The 2005 SEC Championship, I was there. Georgia won both of those. But then I remembered I was at the 2011 SEC Championship, which is the LSU, Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger, where he returned 2 punts or something like that. So I'm not undefeated. So it's not a jinx if I don't go. So I'm gonna watch at a friend's house. It'll be the first game weekend that I've been home since September, when Georgia was playing the crappy games that nobody cares about. I'm going to go to a buddy's house. We're going to grill out. I do want to touch really quickly on the transfer portal. So it's looking like, I don't know if Darius Smith is in yet, but it's looking like he's going to be in. He hasn't been with the team for a while. A freak athlete. I watched this kid when he was in high school, when I think it was AA, but he's winning the 400, and he's a foot taller and 100 pounds heavier than everybody he's running against. I mean, this kid's a freak athlete. He'll catch on somewhere. It just didn't work out at Georgia. We got a lot of guys in that room, and I don't know why he's away from the team, so maybe something else off the field's going on. But he was one of the ones who was on my list that I'm trying to get from Graham, and hopefully I get that at some point. It's not a big deal, but, we'll see. I want to compare and contrast, and I don't remember everything I wrote on there. Justice Haynes, the Buford, Georgia product. Actually, he transferred from some private school to Buford for his senior year, which is usually not good for Georgia. But he ended up going to Alabama. His father famously caught the hobnail boot touchdown pass from David Green in 2001, I believe that was. That his father is Veron Haynes. Well, Justice, who you would think would be a shoo-in to come to Georgia, was, I think, the number 1 running back in his recruiting class last year, goes to Alabama, Something happened during his recruitment. I don't know exactly what it was, but he's in the transfer portal now. Does he come back home to Georgia? I don't know. Trevor Etienne from Florida is in the transfer portal, or is going to be entering the transfer portal. I'm not sure if it's official yet. His name has been linked to Georgia. Georgia's got 3 running backs coming in. I don't know what happens with any of those guys. I don't know. Justice Haynes may still not like Georgia. Like I said, I don't know what happened during his recruitment, but you do still have that legacy connection there. So that'll be interesting. As soon as the game is over, as soon as the games are over Saturday, as soon as the playoff field is set, transfer portal and recruiting is going to go nuts. So I'm interested and excited to see how that's going to play out. Hopefully, Georgia's prepping for the playoff. But I think if Georgia loses, I think they're probably out. Are they one of the best 4 teams no matter what happens? Absolutely they are. But this is your one-game playoff, and I don't mind that Georgia may not be in, because you have to win the game. This is the best team Georgia will have played all year. It's at a neutral site. It's in your home state. You're back-to-back champions. Just win the game. This is the game that you've been preparing for all year. And if you win this game, you will be favored. I don't care if you win it by 1 point. Just win. You'll be favored over everyone else. Both of your playoff games, if you win the first one, you'll be favored in both. So just win. People get mad at me. I say in 2021, if Oklahoma State had won the Big 12 instead of Baylor, Oklahoma State would have been a 1-loss conference champion. I don't think Georgia would have gotten into the playoff in 2021, because if you're the committee and you claim to care about conference championships, then how can you leave out a conference champion over a team in 2021 who has the same record and is not a conference champion? Yes, Georgia is obviously better than Oklahoma State, or was obviously better in 2021. Yes, Georgia will obviously be better than other teams, perhaps undefeated teams that are in the playoff. If Florida State and Washington win and Georgia loses to Alabama, I'm going to tell you something. Georgia would be favored by double digits over both of those teams. So you just have to win that game. You have to win this game. This is the most important game of the year. I think it's more important potentially than the playoff games that could come after. Just win. If you don't win, there's a decent chance you might not get into the playoff. And y'all can get mad at me if you don't agree. That's fine. And this is where we kind of find out. This is where the rubber meets the road for kind of the first time this year. And I know Georgia's schedule has looked a little bit better than we expected it to going in, but it still hasn't been it has not been a murderer's row. No games have I really felt all that worried, even Auburn and South Carolina. Although those are games that Georgia would have lost in the past, to be clear. Georgia would be 10-2 sitting here wondering what if we had just beaten Auburn and South Carolina. But now with the depth of talent that Kirby provides, we win those games. Even if it's ugly, you just win. The last thing I want to address is the everything school conversation. Tennessee got dominated by Missouri and then got dominated by Georgia, so they're on to basketball season talking about how they're an everything school. Georgia basketball got a big win last night against Florida State. They came back from, I think, 16 or 17 down. I didn't watch it. I was a huge Georgia basketball fan when I was in school. They won the SEC when I was in school. I came back from spring break and to watch them win the SEC championship. A tornado hit the Georgia Dome. It was nuts. And then I drove to Washington, D.C., 10 hours to watch them play against Xavier in the tournament. I still think they got jobbed by the referees in the second half. There was Sundiata Gaines went up. There was a hand on the ball. They called it a jump ball. He got the ball off anyway. I didn't think it was a good call. Georgia ended up losing a somewhat close game, as I recall it. We drove back the next day. I had some friends that were involved in the spirit program and the band, so we kind of snuck in and crashed on the floor for one night. We drove back the next day, through the night, actually. It was awful, but it was a great time. I said all that to say I don't really follow the team that much anymore. I know there's a kid named Blue Kane on there. Coach is Mike White. And I support the team. I hope Georgia wins the national championship. But all I'm saying is this. Myself, along with almost every SEC fan base outside of maybe Kentucky and Vanderbilt, would sign off on canceling all other sports if it meant that your football team would win championships consistently. I'm telling you, the only sport that I really live and die by is football. Now, I support all the other teams. I want them all to win. I want Georgia to win the national championship in tennis, gymnastics, swimming. They won all those when I was in college, by the way. We won the Sugar Bowl when I was in college. We won, we had some track and field national champions. I think individual national champions. We may have won the indoor championship at one point when I was in college. Georgia won a lot of championships when I was in school, and the football team was very good. 10 wins every year. Would win what was called BCS Bowls back then, also known as New Year's Six Bowls. Mark Richt was a good coach, and the program was in good shape. That time was great, but that time sucked compared to now, where apparently the basketball team, I don't know, maybe they're better now. They haven't been good the last few years. Georgia also almost won the national championship in baseball when I was in school. They went all the way to the final and lost 2 out of 3 to Fresno State, which was cool. I don't care. I don't know anybody on the baseball team now, and it's no disrespect. Football is what drives everything. And if you act like, oh, well, I'm glad my school is good at every sport. First of all, Georgia is kind of good at every sport. They haven't been that good at basketball lately, but they're good at other stuff. I looked that up. If you don't believe me, Tennessee we're the everything school. They haven't won a championship in anything since 2009. So I don't know what they're talking about. But Tennessee, if you're telling me that you would rather be like you are now than be a football championship program with your other you would cancel all your other programs. Just be honest with yourself. I understand it's a coping mechanism after a disappointing football season. We tried to tell you it wasn't going to get better when you got rid of Hendon Hooker and Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt. You're not just going to replace those guys. Joe Milton was on the bench behind Hendon Hooker for a reason. He's not a terrible player. He's got a cannon for an arm, but he just is not the guy that is going to win you national championships at a place like Tennessee. So we'll see how it goes with Nico. If I was a Tennessee fan, I would be excited about Nico coming in. Tennessee also lost to North Carolina last night, by the way. Georgia won their SEC, ACC basketball challenge. But let's stop with the everything school stuff. It's just embarrassing, especially when you don't bring it up until after your football team's season is already over. Like, oh yeah, at least we got baseball season coming up. Nobody cares about baseball. Please shut up. Unless you're on the baseball team or you know someone who is, just shut up. You can pull for the team. I hope Georgia's team wins the national championship in baseball this year. If they don't, it will not affect my life at all. There's nothing that you could possibly tweet at me that would make that matter. All I care about is hopefully closing out this three-peat, but I think it's going to be tough to do. This is a tall task to beat Alabama. We will see if Georgia is up to it this Saturday at 4 o'clock on CBS. Oh, man. One last time for CBS. I'm going to miss the theme music. I know a lot of you guys hate Gary Danielson. I think you take life too seriously. I don't know if you've noticed the last few years he's said a lot of good things about Georgia. I know y'all get tired of him talking about how Alabama's good, but now he talks a lot about how Georgia's good. So he says that good teams are good. If some of y'all take life too seriously, I liked Vern Lundquist, even though he would screw stuff up sometimes. Uncle Vern, it's just nostalgic for me. So I don't care about College Game Day too much, but I will miss. I don't watch College Game Day, but I will miss CBS. I'll miss the theme music. Their production is better than ESPN. Overall, they do a better job. So one last time, maybe that'll come back around, but now we're stuck with Disney and ESPN and Bob Iger and all those idiots over there. So, but for now, I guess we'll see you guys on the other side. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the nature of the podcast. If we lose, I may not even record next week. I know I've been bookmarked by a lot of Alabama fans. I did tell them they were going 9-3. They were a little bit better than that. I felt pretty good about it when they were struggling with USF on the road earlier this year, but they've definitely rebounded. Tommy Rees and Kevin Steele have been better as coordinators than I expected them to be. Jalen Milroe has been better, but I still think Georgia has the better team. So if Alabama wins, I think they're going to have to play their A game. And I think Georgia's going to have to make some mistakes. But we'll see how it goes. They're kicking off this Saturday at 4. But until then, until next week, let's get it in together, guys. Let's go Dogs. What's that coming down the track? For those of you who say it correctly, had Pat McAfee on TV asking the correct way to say it because our fan base can't get it right. What's that coming down the track, guys? It is the Dogs and the Tide. Go Dogs. See y'all next week.